Week 15 in women's sports, it wasn't just another week of games. Not at all. It was a collection of moments that, when you put them all together, signal a massive, and I think permanent, power shift across the entire landscape. Seriously, we've just witnessed a tipping point. And that, right there, is what this is all about. The status quo just got a massive wake-up call. I mean, from a decade-long rowing curse finally being shattered to a total financial revolution in the WNBA, Week 15 proved that the old ways of thinking are done. The so-called favorites? Yeah, they are no longer safe. All right, so let's dive right in with the most dramatic upsets. The places where these long-standing dynasties got seriously challenged, and in some cases, just completely knocked over. 9. Just think about that number for a second. 9 consecutive years of losing to your biggest rival. Can you imagine the pressure, the history, the doubt that just builds and builds for almost a decade? Well, that number is the setup for one of the best comeback stories of the year. Because in the historic boat race, Oxford's women's rowing team finally snapped that 9-year losing streak to Cambridge. I mean, this is so much more than just a win. It's a complete legacy shift. It's a story about breaking a curse and literally rewriting history on the water. Just an incredible emotional moment. And this kind of disruption wasn't just a one-off thing. It was happening everywhere. You hop over to the soccer pitch, and it was all about the underdog's bite. The A-League gave us this high-scoring chaos where just pure attacking power completely overwhelmed defenses. At the same time, in the NWSL, you had the lower-ranked teams just clawing back crucial points from the top dogs, making that playoff race so much tighter. And don't even get me started on tennis. The WTA Tour was basically a minefield for top-seeded players. You have this wave of younger athletes with these aggressive tactics, just punishing anyone who's tired, leading to all these early exits. So the big takeaway here is that this is a trend. The gap between the top and the bottom is closing, and it's closing fast. But, and this is where the story gets really interesting, for all the chaos we just talked about, other sports were doing the exact opposite. Dominant forces were getting even stronger. This is what I'm calling the predictability paradox of Week 15. And this really lays out that central conflict, right? On one side, you've got the total unpredictability that's spreading through rowing, soccer, and tennis. But on the other, you have this rock-solid order we're seeing in NCAA basketball and Alpine skiing. Two completely different narratives unfolding at the exact same time. So let's look at how this paradox played out in basketball. The real story in the NCAA tournament wasn't some shocking upset. It was the lack of them. Yeah, outside of that one huge stunner where Virginia beat Iowa, the top-seeded teams held on with an iron grip. The biggest surprise was how predictable it all was, which tells you that the elite programs are just consolidating their power and playing at a level that's getting incredibly hard for anyone else to touch. And that story of pure dominance is perfectly captured right here in alpine skiing. Because even in a week full of chaos, some athletes just remain untouchable. Mikaela Shiffrin kept up her incredible run, locking down another World Cup title and just cementing her legendary status. I mean, the gap between her and everybody else, well, you can see it for yourself. It's just staggering. Okay, so to really get the full picture of what's happening on the field, we have to look off of it. Because honestly, the biggest changes might be happening behind the scenes, in boardrooms and policy meetings. And that's driving all the drama we're seeing in the games. And there is no better example than the WNBA's new collective bargaining agreement. This thing is a total game changer. We are talking about major salary increases. The average salary is now over 6 figures for the first time ever. Then you add in a truly groundbreaking revenue-sharing model and way better benefits, and what you have is the business of the game finally catching up to the incredible talent on the floor. Now, at the same time, it is absolutely crucial that we acknowledge the really tough conversations that are happening. Sources reported on a major abuse case in Czech women's football, and it just highlights this ongoing systemic fight for more accountability and for better athlete protection in every sport. These are the critical stories behind the game that we just can't afford to ignore. And that leads us to this really fundamental question that's shaping the entire future of competition. With new IOC eligibility policies being debated, the whole conversation around how to balance fairness and inclusion is now front and center. It's a really complex, but really vital discussion about identity and the very fabric of sports going forward. So that's a lot, right? Chaos over here, total order over there, financial shifts, policy debates. How do you make sense of it all? Well, let's put it together into a simple playbook so you can track these storylines like a pro.
Here it is, your 3-step workflow. First, always watch for the upset. Keep your eyes on the sports where that talent gap is closing. Second, follow the money. Start connecting what you see on the court to the business deals happening behind the scenes. And third, track the debates. Understand how policy is shaping who gets to compete and what the rules of the game are going to be. Which brings us to our final thought. We're in this wild new era where money, policy, and this rising tide of talent are all colliding at once. So the real question isn't if another sport is going to be transformed, it's which one is next to have its world turned completely upside down.